How's it going, everybody? It is Dennis, and it's that time of the month to go over how much we've made in the month of February from dividends, from options, from spreads, and all that type of stuff. We're going to go ahead and check out and see how much we've made. Of course, I do this every single month, and this month we're going over February, obviously, and we're going to be going over how much we made from YieldMax, from Roundhill, from all these different dividend ETFs. So if you're new to the channel, I do this every month. I go over all my income. I'm transparent as much as I can be. And yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it. Starting off in February with our first dividend ETF, or not dividend ETF, but dividend paying stock, and that is OHI, that paid us $13.03. As always, I like to say that a lot of these stocks that you might see are not all high yielding dividend ETFs. Some of these I've owned for years, so that's why they're on this list, and I continue to own them throughout the years. We also have Stag that paid $4.15. We then have Main that paid $5.67. And of course, now we're getting into YieldMax ETF. So we have APLY that paid $109.87 compared to the $83 from January. We have $267.18 from TSLY, which is down from January of $322.80. We have AMZY at $173.44, which is higher than the $126.76 of January. We have $129.88 from GUI, which is higher than the month of January of $108.03. And we have YMAX at $386.25, which is higher than January at $306.08. And of course, we have AMD at $88.44, which is higher than January of $70.12. So you can see that every single YieldMax ETF came in higher besides TSLY, which came in lower. So we have been outpacing month over month, and we could go ahead and take a closer look at that as well on our YieldMax chart. So let's go ahead and look at our YieldMax chart. We can see that the reason TSLY came in lower than the month prior was because, of course, we got a lower dividend per share of $57.93 for our 461 shares. So even though we added 11 shares on top of what we already have, the dividend per share did come in lower, and we got $267. Currently, we stand at $589.99 earned, and the total distribution for 2025 of $1.29. So that's how TSLY standing currently as of February. For AMD, we added no share, or sorry, for AMZY, we added no shares into AMZY for this month, but the dividend per share went up to $54.8 per share, and that boosted us up to $173.44. With that, we're all standing at $300.20 from AMZY, and a total distribution so far of $94.85. We then have APLY. APLY, of course, once again came in higher at $109.87 compared to the $83.83 from January. We did increase our share count from 295 to 303, and the dividend per share did increase as well from 28.41 to 36.25, which gave us that 3-digit boost for APLY. And APLY's coming in at $193.70 so far for 2025 at $64.66 total distribution for the year so far. We have GUI, like mentioned before, higher as well, 129.88 over 108.03. We increased shares by 10 from 324 to 334. The distribution per share increased as well from 33.24 to 38.77. That's a total distribution per share so far for 2025 of 72.01, and a total income made of $237.91. Then we have AMD. Of course, AMD has been going down recently. Pretty much the whole market has been going down recently. But the underlying AMD has been going down, so has AMD with it. But we continue to add shares, as you can see, from 206 to 232. The distribution went up to 38.12, and we got $88.44. Total distribution so far, $158.56, and total distributed per share at $72.16. I'm probably going to continue to add into AMD. I might slow down a little bit just with the market downturn currently. I am looking to diversify into stuff that will trend upwards faster than the YieldMax ETFs. Of course, all these YieldMax ETFs, they will be limited on the trend upwards when the market begins to recover, whenever that is, whenever we even reach the low, which we haven't just yet, or maybe we have, depending on when this video is coming out. But we have so far are trending downwards, and we're waiting for that market to go back up whenever that ends up happening, or whenever we hit the bottom. But in general, these ETFs, the single stock ETFs, and even the all the diversified like YMAX, YMAX, they will trend upwards slower usually than what the market goes up, especially in fast spikes of like 5 to 10% gains for single stocks. So Of course, for that, I'm diversifying more into stuff that will go up faster when the market decides to trend upwards, but I still will continue to add into AMD and all these other positions. But besides the point, let's move on to our last YieldMax ETF payment for this month, and that is YMAX at $386.25, 66.26 distributed, so higher than the month prior, and the total distribution per share is $1.26. Total distributed amount for 2025 is $692.34, and we did add shares as well. As you can see, I've been aggressive to add into YMAX. YMAX has, if you do or do not know, has outpaced the S&P 500 for the year of 2024. So therefore, I believe this position has possibility to continue to outpace the S&P, especially if the S&P continues to drop or has lower trends compared to last month when it comes to growth aspects. So last year we had around 24% growth or 22% growth from the S&P. YMAX grew by 24%. So if we're able to have maybe steady growth, a little bit slower growth on S&P, then YMAX will be able to grow faster, I believe, because it does have the distributions to help it, and it'll be able to capture more of that slow growth rather than the quick growth that S&P experienced last year. But besides the point, 537 to 599, we added a bunch of shares into YMAX, continue to add shares into YMAX. Like I said, again, slowing down a little bit due to wanting to add more shares into more things that have a possibility of higher growth in the short term when the market decides to start recovering. So I am distributing my money into there, but I will continue to add into YieldMax ETFs. And we are at the end of the month earning $1,155.06 just from YieldMax ETFs alone for February, and that is 13.51% higher than the month prior of $1,017.63. And currently at so far for 2025, we made $2,172.70 from YieldMax ETFs. We also could take a look at YMAX the specific weeks. Of course, you could see where I've been buying shares, how many shares I've been buying. So week 1, February, went from 537 to 568, from 568 to 584, which we stayed for 2 weeks. Then we jumped up to last week to 599. And of course, our distributions per share have been fluctuating as well, with week 4 coming in at the lowest at $13.27 and making us only $79.58. But we did get 2 weeks of over 3 triple digits of 110 and 108, which helped us continue to grow. Especially since last month, we had 5 weeks of distributions and we came out at 306.08. And this week we had 4 weeks of distribution. We came in at 386.25. But that's just the power of compounding and adding more money into these weekly ETFs. Now that we looked over this, let's go ahead and go back to our monthly income. Continuing with our monthly income, HTGC is a quarterly paying ETF, did not pay us this month. That will probably be paying us next month. We have DHS that paid us $17.33. That is higher than the $17.16. We have DHS that paid $8.02, which is higher than $7.99. SEHH is another quarterly one, will not be paying this month or did not pay this month. RITM is another one, also did not pay this month. We have QDTE that came at $227.45. So it did come in lower than the month prior at $230.32. We have JEPQ. This is a new position that's paid us $13.06. These are one of the positions that I'm looking to add into for the downturn of the market, because it does experience growth as well as having dividends. It has roughly 10% dividend, 9 to 10% dividend yield, as well as experiencing some growth on the upside. Of course, this is not my main growth play. For growth plays, I'm probably going to go into options, which is why I'm saving majority of my cash in for. We also have SPYI or SPYI. That's also a new position that I'm adding into. Like you guys may or may not know, I'm starting to diversify into a little bit safer positions, less volatile positions that pay a little bit less in yield, from anywhere from 10 to 12% in yield, but allows me to have a safe position while I try and transfer my funds into option strategies, which will be able to increase my income by around $400 a month, assuming I'm able to buy a contract every single 3 months. So yeah, with that, we could see at the end, we earned a total of $1,459.20 from dividend income. And that is an 8.83% increase from last month, where we earned $1,340.82. So we did increase our dividend income for this month of February, even with the downturn of the market as of recently and stagnation. But we continue to increase, continue to reinvest, continue to grow, and continue to earn more and more income. And we can also take a look as well at the Roundhill weeklies if you are interested. We could take a look at the Roundhills before we skip over to the options. So for QDTE February, we had 228 in the beginning, 229 for week 2, 230 for week 3, and 232 for week 4. So we're slowly adding shares into QDTE. It is a little bit more expensive than YMAX, so therefore buying shares in it is a little bit more expensive, as you know, would make sense. So therefore the reinvestments into it are a little bit slower, or show a little bit less than say YMAX, where you're able to buy for the same price as one share in QDTE. You could buy yourself roughly 2 to 3 shares in YMAX. So total distribution was $98.79, lower than the $1.06 from last month, but we also had 5 weeks of distribution, so kind of makes sense. We earned 52, 57, 56, and 60 for the weeks, for every single week for the 4 weeks, coming out to that total of 227. We had 3 weeks of green, 1 week of red, better than the last month of 4 weeks of red and 1 week of green. I forgot to add the little, actually we could add it right now. Let's add how much worse we did compared to last month. So we go ahead and add that. All right. So we did negative 1.24% worse than last month, so not too bad, but it's okay. The other YieldMax ETFs and other ETFs that I own in stocks did make up for that. So that's how much we earned from dividends. Let's take a look at options. So looking at options, from TNA, we earned $1,210. From SPYI, we earned $567. And from SPXW, we earned $110. This is our little test that we did, seeing if we're able to trade credit puts on the index, on SPX, on the S&P index. Currently that position is red at the moment. I'm not afraid to say it's currently in the red. It's currently in a loss, so technically this 110 could be a loss, but we still have a couple trading days for it to go back into the green. But currently it is in the red. But I do expect it to go back in the green. I do expect the S&P to rebound. So therefore, I'm going to continue tracking this and seeing where it goes. But we can also take a look at the option trade specifically. And as you can see, compared to last month of January, our option trades have calmed down a lot. And that's why. That is because with TNA, I've decided to switch over to monthly contracts rather than weekly, because I'm able to get the similar amount of income, as you can see, 1,298 compared to 1,210, while doing less trades and having less risk due to moving the contracts lower, higher, and possibly being caught off guard in the case of, say, the market jumps up too fast or drops too fast and any of that movement. So looking at the contracts, we can see on the 3rd of January we did a 10 contract trade, made $1,210. On the 6th we did an S&P trade, made $104. On the 13th we did another S&P trade, $136. On the 10th, which this should be technically before, but it's okay, we did an SPX trade, so we did a credit spread, put credit spread, and made $110. On the 20th, we did an S&P trade, we rolled it over and made $130. And on the 27th, we did an S&P trade, and we made $197. Coming out to that total of $1,887, which you guys are about to see over here. Yep, we made $1,887 for the month of February from options, and that is a 4.37% increase from $1,808 from the month prior. So even with not adding contracts, with just the contracts trading on their own, we haven't added any contracts so far for this month, we still came out higher at 4.37%. And you might be asking how I did that. If TNA came in lower, well, as you can see, SPY came in higher and the index came in at a 110 instead of 25. The SPY came in at 567 because we were able to do a good trade on the S&P, and right after the market dropped. So we are currently standing at 85% chance of profit with that contract, and it's going to expire this week. And it was able to earn us around, I think this, what was it, $197, right? Yep, $197, almost $200 from one trade. Of course, it was a little bit of a risk taking that trade, but the market did trend downwards or continue to trend downwards. Therefore, we were able to come out good with that trade and should be closing this week with positive. So not having to pay anything or having to roll out for less of an income. So with all that, how much did we earn for the end of February? How much did we earn? We earned $3,346.20. $3,346.20, 6.27% higher than January at $3,148.82. As you can see, we beat January's income with the options and with the dividends, and we came out 6.27% higher than the month prior. So even with the market being stagnant and dropping, we are continuing to increase our income. I'm not sure how this is going to go into looking into March. The market is having a little bit more of a harder time, and of course, if the ETF values drop, such as YMAX and QDTE and TSLY and all these different ETFs, if their value drops, their dividends will drop with it, because the 50% yield will not be on the original price of $20. For example, the 50% yield will be on $15. So therefore, your dividends will drop as well. So if your average cost is high at 20 and it drops to 15, and you get 50% from 15, then you just cut yourself your dividends due to that, unless they're able to, of course, increase the dividend percentage return annually due to volatility of the market, and they're able to capture that volatility. But that we'll have to see for March video, seeing how much we earn for March, and of course the weekly videos going over how much we'll be earning from dividends and all of that sorts. But currently where we stand is February did come in higher than January at 6.27%. For March, I expect it to possibly either be stagnant or maybe even lower than the maybe February and maybe even January. We might even dip under the $3,000 mark when it comes to income, and that is because of the market downturn. Is there a possibility that maybe YieldMax and Roundhill are able to deliver high dividends because of the volatility of the market? Maybe. Is there a possibility that JEPQ and SPYI are able to save my portfolio a little bit by adding a little bit of income there? Probably not. It's $13, $15. I'm not adding that many shares into there to make a great effect. Maybe my average cost into YMAX will continue to fuel my income going up, but that we'll have to see. There's no promises. I know definitely with TNA, the amount I'm going to be able to make on TNA will fall next month, especially if I decide to take a safer trade. If I decide to take a risky trade, maybe I can make another $1,000+ S&P, I could continue to make around $400. S&P is quite easy to trade on a weekly basis if you're keeping it safe. With SPX index, I don't know. If it works out, I might play it again. If it doesn't, I might take a break from trading the index, especially with the fact that the market right now is very, very weird. We don't know where it's going, up or down or left and right, if it's staying stagnant or not. So maybe with indexes, I might hold off on trading indexes if I do lose this index trade, just because I want to focus my money or my cash in my portfolio into buying more long-term option trades, more premium and covered call trades on the S&P, which will provide me more of a stable income. But that is for a different video, and I discussed that in a different video. But anyways, that's just the income we made for February: $3,346.20, $1,887 from options, $1,459.20 from dividends, and yeah, that is pretty much it. 6.27% increase from last month. So yep. Thank you so much for watching. That has been the update for February. That has been how much I've earned. Once again, thank you for watching all my videos. I hope you guys like, subscribe, continue to support the channel. I appreciate it very, very much. And I'll see you guys next week for Wednesday's video, going over how much we're receiving from distributions, and as well as Friday's video as well. So yeah, thank you so much. I will see you guys next week.